The blame game. When her exes are always the problem. What if the stories she tells about her past relationships aren't just stories? What if they're actually previews of your future with her? When you start dating someone new, pay attention to how she talks about her past relationships. People reveal their patterns through the stories they tell about their exes. These narratives contain valuable clues about how they view relationships, handle conflicts, and process emotions. There's a big difference between normal relationship complaints and the red flag of never taking responsibility. Almost everyone has had challenging relationships or painful breakups. A healthy person might say something like, "My ex and I weren't compatible in the long run. We had different goals, and I learned I need to communicate better." They acknowledge both external factors and their own contributions to the relationship ending. The red flag appears when her story follows the same script every time. She was perfect, and her ex was the villain. I remember dating Sarah, who portrayed herself as the victim in every romantic story. Her first boyfriend was controlling and jealous. Her second lazy and unmotivated. The third didn't appreciate her enough. And the fourth lied all the time. With each tale, the pattern became clearer. Sarah never mentioned anything she might have contributed to these problems. When I gently asked what she learned about herself from these relationships, she looked confused. "What do you mean?" "I didn't do anything wrong." That response told me everything I needed to know. Despite dating 4 completely different men, she somehow had identical experiences with each one. Sarah was the common denominator, but she couldn't see it. This pattern is like watching the same movie trailer with different actors. You know exactly how the full feature will end. It reveals an inability to self-reflect and grow from past experiences. Healthy relationships require both people to recognize their contributions to problems. Someone who consistently portrays themselves as the victim lacks this crucial skill. They move from relationship to relationship, repeating the same patterns while blaming others for the outcomes. The psychology behind this behavior often stems from defense mechanisms developed early in life. When someone can't accept their role in relationship problems, it's usually because acknowledging personal failings threatens their self-image. They protect themselves by projecting negative qualities onto others. This shields them from painful self-awareness, but prevents growth and creates a cycle of failed relationships. Consider how this will affect you. If someone believes they've never done anything wrong in any relationship, how will they respond when you have conflicts? They won't see your perspective or work with you to solve problems. Instead, they'll label you as wrong while positioning themselves as innocent. This creates the very rejection they fear. What happened to her exes will eventually happen to you. First, you'll be idealized as different from the others. Then, when normal challenges arise, you'll be categorized as just like all the rest. Finally, after the breakup, you'll become another character in her victim narrative. You can uncover this pattern early by asking thoughtful questions. Try, what is a common reason that your past relationships ended? Or what is a complaint that most partners have had about you? Listen carefully. Does she reflect on her contributions to past problems? Can she identify areas where she's grown? Or does she exclusively blame others? Watch for subtle language cues. For instance, when Lisa described her breakup, she said, "He couldn't handle my success," then immediately added, "Though I realize now I sometimes prioritized work over our relationship." This small acknowledgement of her role showed significant self-awareness. In contrast, Megan used phrases like, "He made me feel," "He ruined everything," and "He forced me to," repeatedly, placing all agency and responsibility on her ex. A green flag response might sound like, "I've realized I tend to avoid difficult conversations, which led to resentment building up in my past relationships. I'm working on being more direct now." A red flag response puts all blame externally. "Men just can't handle a strong woman like me," or "I always pick guys who end up being jealous." Another revealing question is, how have your past relationships helped you grow as a person? This directly asks, about her ability to learn from experiences. If she can't identify any personal growth, that's concerning. Pay attention to how she describes disagreements with friends, family members, or coworkers too. Does everyone in her life somehow wrong her? This pattern extends beyond romantic relationships when it's a core personality trait. The subtle behaviors that reveal a woman's relationship patterns include how she handles small disappointments, whether she can laugh at herself, and if she expresses gratitude or always focuses on what's lacking. These daily interactions show her emotional patterns more accurately than what she tells you directly. The way she talks about exes today is exactly how she'll talk about you tomorrow. If all her exes are crazy, toxic, or abusive, you're getting a preview of your future role in her narrative. This isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who demonstrates accountability, self-awareness, and the ability to grow. A healthy partner can acknowledge both their ex's shortcomings and their own contributions to relationship problems. We all have blind spots. The difference is whether someone shows capacity for self-reflection. Can they admit when they've made mistakes? This emotional maturity forms the foundation of a healthy relationship. Before you invest more time and emotion, listen carefully to how she talks about past relationships. This pattern predicts your future together more accurately than any promise or momentary connection. But sometimes, the red flags aren't in what she says about others, but in how she handles everyday conflicts with you. A woman might present a balanced view of her exes, yet still show troubling patterns in real-time interactions. This brings us to our next critical warning sign: resistance to taking responsibility when things go wrong between you. Responsibility. Resistance. Inability to own her role in conflicts. Ever notice how some people can turn even the smallest disagreement into proof that you're the problem? I once dated a woman who ordered a meal at a restaurant, then complained it wasn't what she expected. When I gently mentioned she might have misread the menu description, she spent the next 20 minutes explaining why the restaurant, the waiter, and finally I were all conspiring to ruin her evening. That minor interaction revealed more about our compatibility than our previous 3 dates combined. Early dating provides a perfect window into how someone handles conflicts. Think about those first few disagreements you have with someone new. Maybe you're deciding which movie to watch, or you're running late to meet her friends. These seemingly small moments actually reveal crucial information about how she approaches problems. In healthy conflict resolution, both people acknowledge their contributions to the issue. She might say, "I was frustrated when you were late, and I probably overreacted a bit. Let's figure out how to handle timing better." She takes ownership of her emotions and actions, while still expressing her needs. There's a willingness to find solutions rather than just assign blame. The red flag appears when she consistently deflects responsibility and blames others, instead of acknowledging her part. She might say, "You made me feel bad by being late. You always do this to me." Notice how in this framing, she's positioned herself as the passive recipient of your actions rather than an active participant in the interaction. She's not taking responsibility for her reactions or considering how she might contribute to the dynamic. These patterns show up in seemingly minor conflicts, but reveal major character issues. Think of unresolved blame like a pressure cooker. Each small incident, where responsibility is deflected, adds more steam until eventually the whole relationship explodes over something trivial. I remember a date where I accidentally spilled water on the table. My date immediately tensed up and said, "You need to be more careful. Now everyone is looking at us." When I looked around, no one was paying any attention. Her response revealed how she would handle larger issues with criticism and blame, rather than grace and teamwork. This behavior rarely exists in isolation. How she handles conflicts in other areas of her life tells you how she'll eventually handle conflicts with you. Watch how she talks about workplace disagreements. Does her boss always misunderstand her? Are her co-workers always undercutting her? These patterns with colleagues today become patterns with you tomorrow. One of the most revealing contexts is how she interacts with service workers. When the coffee order is wrong or the food takes too long, does she treat the server with respect or immediately become demanding? I once watched a date snap her fingers at a waiter who was clearly managing multiple tables during a rush. When I commented on it later, she said, "That's what they're paid for. I shouldn't have to wait." This interaction told me everything about how she would treat me when I inevitably failed to meet her expectations. Family relationships also reveal these patterns. How does she talk about conflicts with her parents or siblings? Does she acknowledge the complexity of family dynamics and her role in them? Or does she cast herself as the perennial victim of unreasonable family members? These stories contain valuable information about her conflict resolution style. Our approach to handling disagreements often stems from childhood experiences. If she grew up in a home where taking responsibility was modeled, she likely developed healthy conflict resolution skills. If blame and deflection were the norm, she probably absorbed those patterns. This doesn't mean people can't change. They absolutely can, but change requires awareness and effort. When someone consistently avoids taking responsibility for their role in conflicts, it often connects to deeper fears. Admitting mistakes might have been dangerous or shameful in their formative relationships. Their defensive reactions aren't necessarily about the current situation, but about protecting themselves from feelings of inadequacy or rejection they experienced earlier in life. You can gain valuable insights by watching how she handles conflicts with others before they involve you directly. Does she gossip extensively about others' flaws while presenting herself as blameless? Does she hold grudges over minor offenses? These behaviors predict how she'll treat you when the honeymoon phase ends. Several questions can reveal her conflict patterns early in dating. Ask her about a time when a disagreement led to growth in a relationship. A healthy response includes what she learned and how she changed her approach. A red flag response focuses entirely on how the other person was wrong or needed to change. Another revealing question is, how do you prefer to handle it when someone disappoints you? Listen for whether her answer includes direct communication and mutual problem solving, or if it's centered on the other person making amends while she remains passive. The ultimate test is simple. Watch how she handles small conflicts now. Does she own her part or immediately blame others? When plans change unexpectedly, does she adapt with grace or make you feel guilty? When you express a concern, does she listen and respond thoughtfully or become defensive and counterattack? A woman who can say "I messed up" or "I overreacted" shows emotional maturity. Someone who never admits fault will eventually make your relationship feel like a courtroom where you're always on trial. No matter how attractive, successful, or charming she might be, her inability to take responsibility will eventually undermine your connection. Remember that healthy relationships aren't about finding someone who never makes mistakes. They're about finding someone who can acknowledge their mistakes, learn from them, and work with you to do better. The capacity to take responsibility is fundamental to trust, growth, and genuine intimacy. The